Last video, we finished this attic space. We put in electrical, we insulated it, put up siding, painted it, and made it what it is now. And dang, does it look good. This video, I'm gonna be building desks, putting LED lights, setting up the space as a makerspace, and I can't wait. First, let's start with some desks, so let's head to the shop. To build those desks, I have a couple of requirements. I want to keep them very light and very simple, but still looking very cool. So to do that, I'm going to be using this 1-inch square tubing. Per 20-foot stick, this stuff only weighs about 16 pounds. Each desk will be a little bit more than one stick, so this should be pretty light. The tops of these desks will be plywood that'll be stained and look good, and it also should be pretty light. So with all that being said, let's get started cutting up a bunch of metal. So these desks I'm gonna keep very simple. I'm just gonna do simple rectangles with 4 legs on them. Here's the frame of what will be the back desk. I'm gonna start with this one in the back, and then I'll measure for the rest of the desks going up front. So I'm gonna get this frame cleaned up, welded. We'll take it up to the attic, and then we'll measure off the rest of the desks from this one. I don't think I mentioned earlier, this is 065 wall, 16 gauge wall. It's very, very thin. So I'm stitch welding everything. I tried to weld a bead on that end and I burned through every time. Not a problem, is what it is. All right, so now I'm gonna grind down this side, flip it over, and finish weld the back side. All right, now that this guy's fully welded up, I'm gonna take it up into the attic and then measure off from there. We just spent a bunch of time up in the attic trying to figure out our measurements. We got everything figured out. So back to the bandsaw to get everything cut up. I got everything cut for the next 2 desks. I'm gonna throw you on a time lapse. Let's get these babies welded up. Now we have 3 awesome tabletop frames. Next, I'm going to work on the legs. For that, I'm gonna put some brackets on each corner of the tops, and I am going to bolt the legs onto these. My goal is to make these fairly modular and fairly easy to get up into the attic. If you saw the last videos where I built the stairs, it's a pretty tight fit getting into the door. So here's those brackets that I cut out, and here's what I'll be doing with them. I'll be bending them 90 degrees, and then we'll be attaching those to the desktop frame here. I think these brackets just give it a cool effect, a cool look. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to bolt these or if I'm gonna plug weld these to the frame. I'm kind of leaning towards plug welding them. We'll see. I'm gonna get all these cleaned up, and that'll be it for the day. Tomorrow morning I'll come back, I'll get all these bent up, and we'll start putting everything together. I got all the brackets cleaned up, and I went ahead and marked all of my center bend lines. So let's head to the break and get these all bent up. I got these all bent up. They look good. I got the top here all sanded down. So now I'm gonna flip it over, and I think I decided to plug weld or rosette weld these guys into place. So let's get to that right now, and this should go pretty fast and we can move on to the lake. I'm so happy I chose to do the plug welds on this. I think I'm just gonna leave the welds. I'll hit it with a wire wheel and just leave it. It'll kind of look like a rivet or a button. I love it. I think these are turning out so cool. Next, I'm gonna work on the legs, and for that, we're gonna go back over to the bandsaw and cut 12 30-inch legs. I got all 12 legs cut up, and as you can see, I have one mocked up in how I'm gonna do this. So I have one leg clamped in here, and then I take my drill with the right size bit, and I just quickly run it in to find center. Then from there, I'm gonna take it over to the drill press. I almost forgot to mention, I also have to mark every single leg, because I'm not sure each hole is exactly in the same spot. So I'm gonna have to mark number 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, and make sure I marked for the orientation to be correct. That's the part I would probably forget at least once, and I guarantee I'll screw it up somewhere along the lines. Like I said, I knew I was gonna forget to mark 1. I forgot to mark number 8. I was too worried about getting my headphones in. Didn't even think about marking it, but it's okay. 1 out of 12, I'll be able to line that one up and make sure it works. Next, we're gonna head over to the drill press and get all 48 of these holes knocked out. Wish me luck, because this one's gonna take a while. Well, after the 3rd drill bit that I found, it went super smooth. I finally found a sharp drill bit, and it was easy. I got them all finished. Now I'm gonna start putting the legs onto these tops. Then we can start moving on to the plywood. I might be jumping the gun a little bit here by putting the legs on, but I wanna make sure everything works and is square and looks good first before I move on to the plywood itself. So to put these together, I bought these Phillip round head, not sure what these things are called, quarter 20 bolts. The reason I went with these is I like the round head better than the hex head for something like this, especially to go with my plug welds on the sides. Everything will kind of match. Oh, that is cool. I hope it shows up as well on camera as it does in person. But the way these screws kind of match the plug welds, it's a really cool effect, really cool look. I love this style. Being that those legs went on so easy and so good on that first one, I can't imagine the other two, they don't. Now we're gonna work on tabs that I'll weld to this, that I'll be able to screw onto the plywood. That way it holds it into place. To make those tabs, we're gonna go back to the plasma table. The tabs will mount on the bottom of this here. I'll lay the plywood on top of it, screw it in from the bottom. It'll hold tight and everything will look good. You won't be able to see the tabs from the top. Now that I got these tabs welded on, we can move on to the top of these tables. And for that, we're gonna be using plywood. The plywood that I bought for these tables is this 3/4 inch maple. We're gonna stain this dark and I think it's gonna look great. All right, so I'm gonna first rip these down with my circular saw just to rough widths, and then I'll take them over to the table saw and fine tune them from there. When I had originally designed these desks, I planned for them to be 24 inches deep. So I bought 2 of these sheets thinking that I could just rip them in half and have one solid tabletop. Unfortunately, we chose to go 31 inches deep, so I can't rip these in half. So what I'm gonna have to do is rip them in sections going widthwise instead of lengthwise. Now that I've got 2 of the tabletops cut down to width, I am going to measure and cut them down to length. This is where I have to get very precise because I need that seam to be right in the middle. Should be pretty easy though, not to worry about it. Now that I have all the panels cut and fitting real nice, the only thing we have left to do is sand down the corners real quick where the welds are so that they slide in and everything fits in perfect. I already did one over there just as a trial run. Went smooth, went good. Now let's do this one. First shot, easy peasy. I will say, if I were to build tables like this again, I would not put a weld on the inside. To me, the plywood being up against there sanded is just kind of an unfinished look. I mean, it works, it looks okay, but I'd like it to be a sharp edge. I think it'd look way, way better. But other than that, these are sweet. I really like the metal and wood look. I think it'll look even better when these are dark. I'm looking forward to that because it's gonna change everything. Now I have the panels set and ready for all 3 desks. They're all looking really good. I need to mark each board in each desk frame. That way when I take it up in the attic, I know which one goes where. So I gotta first say, I do not like stain. I don't like the way it looks on wood. I don't like applying it. I don't like stain. I consider myself a little bit of a woodworker, and stain to me is a fake way of changing wood and getting dark wood. But I digress. I think when these are in the frames, they will look great. So there's only one thing left to do, and that is to hit the frames with a wire wheel and degrease them. Let's get them nice and clean before we take them up to the attic. So if you haven't guessed by now, I am going to be leaving these raw. If you've seen any of my other videos on any interior steel, I liked the imperfect side of metal when it's raw, especially when I got the sand marks from cleaning up the corners. I just like raw steel. So I'm gonna leave these raw. I'm gonna continue cleaning them and get these done. All right, I got the table frames set up in the attic space. Now we're gonna put them all together and then we'll bring the tops up, finish these things. Those are sweet. Those are gonna be so cool in this space. All right, we gotta get the tops on. I don't think that's gonna change it and make it money. Normally, I don't like any stained wood, but I gotta admit, this wood next to the metal, next to this gray, looks so good. What do you think? All right, with the tables all set up and in place and looking great, I'm going to move on to installing LED strips. I'm gonna be putting them on the top of this piece of trim That way it shines up onto the ceiling. Should give this room a really cool effect. The only downside to installing these LED strips is I have to mount this controller above the door. I gotta be honest, I bought the cheapest set I could possibly find, and they don't have much leads to them, and I don't wanna go buy more. It'll be fine. So the power cord will come down the trim, and then we'll put a little extension cord going to the plug right there. Not the most ideal situation, but whatever. It'll look cool. All right, we got the LED strip put up, and it's super cool. Here, let me show you. Not yet. You didn't think I'd actually show you just yet, did you? No, we gotta finish this room first. Then I'll show you those cool LED lights. All right, next we're gonna bring in all the good stuff. We're gonna bring in the 3D printer, the laser, computer, hat stuff, chairs, leather patches, you name it. We're gonna load this place up. The finishing touch of that attic sign is perfect for this. These LED lights look so good. My son has set up his little space already. It looks good. In fact, he's already got the 3D printer going. He's crushing it. These tables turned out so good. I absolutely love them. I might incorporate something similar to these into my shop. We'll see. Stick around for the next video as we will be making laser box and a 3D printer box to get the fumes out of this room. Until then, check out another one of these videos of mine. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.